Hi guys, this is my first attempt at a vlog instead of using a written format to share my thoughts on my experiences for the Easter production for Easter 2018 under the Sycamore tree. Before I go any further, let me get something done. Hi, as you can see a little bit of changes, so I just wanted to share a little bit before I get to the main thing of this video, of this vlog, is why didn't I actually do a sharing about my experiences last year? It was because last year our church had to go through a rather particularly difficult trial, so it was a difficult time for our church. And I didn't feel right to talk about my experiences or my sharing for last year. It was a difficult time for our church, and personally I was also going through some challenges when it comes to work, when it comes to my own challenge, my own things that I had to do. So which is why I decided not to create a blog post about it. A few things I had to do. Okay, in this video, what we're going to talk about is actually we're going to talk about the preparation that I had to do, and of course a little bit about the story and script development that went through behind the scenes that you wouldn't know unless you've been with us from the very start. So what are the preparations that I had to do? Okay, first of all, as you can see, my hair is different from the start of the video. I intentionally left my hair long. For some reason, I feel that when it comes to the character, I prefer him to have long hair. It's just for some reason, I feel that if I had my hair short, as what I usually would have, it would not portray him correctly. Because back in that time, people kind of leave their hair long. And also the other thing is, if I leave my hair short, it portrays a very young feel. So I didn't want that to distract people so much, so I intentionally left my hair long. I left it for about 2 months. So 2 whole months I couldn't cut my hair. It was very long. It was getting very, very long. So it's very comfortable now actually. Okay, and I had decided to color a little bit, so that's also a nice update in a sense. So the other thing I had to do, talking about hair, was actually I had to remove my leg hair. uh, so because when we do the makeup for the character, we use glue. We actually use UHU glue. We go through an elaborate process on spraying the paints, and then afterwards start putting powder, then afterwards putting on the glue, letting it dry, putting on latex, putting on color, and so on. So there's many steps actually that we had to go through. So and when that's done, after the show, I would immediately go to the back, the makeup area, and have it removed. So instead of having a very painful process of taking glue off the leg hair, I decided to remove the entire all the leg hair. Okay, so that when they remove the glue, it'll be an easier process. Otherwise, it's gonna be ugh. I would suffer okay, every time they had to remove it. So that is one of the things that I had to do. Now, the other thing that I had to do was to lose weight. When I started the role, when I started to prepare for the role, it was the challenge is always uh, Easter, always happens to be after Chinese New Year. So Chinese New Year is a time when we feast. Chinese New Year is a time when we eat a lot, and I gained weight. I gained a lot of weight. So what happened was that once Chinese New Year was over, I had to get into the state to prepare to get out of it and to start to lose weight. When I started, I was 75.2. On the Easter itself, okay, on Easter itself, I was 69.2. So in a span of 1 month, I lost 6 kilograms. And I did that through the ketogenic or the ketosis diet. So there's a lot of research about this particular diet, and I highly recommend it. So if you would like to know more about it, please go online and check it out. There's a whole bunch of videos. But yes, I really did lose 6 kilograms in 1 month. Okay, now coming back, why is it important for me to lose weight? Now, of course I don't want to portray a fat Jesus. All right. First of all, if I have fat Jesus, the cross is gonna it's gonna take a long time to come up. The other thing is that one of the things that I always remember, this particular actor said this, I think it was Michael Caine who mentioned that if you are going to do a role, avoid, whether you're male or female, avoid having to show your body, because when you do, they don't look at your acting. The audience don't look at the acting, they actually look at your body. So my intention really is just to create a body that does not distract people. But that being said, I also know that people have different expectations of what Jesus will be. Some are okay with Jesus being in any shape. Some want Jesus to be very fit. Yeah. So people have different expectations. I remember one this year when Willie was doing Jesus. He's a very fit guy, and when he did that character, he actually overheard someone saying that, "Oh, this Jesus, I don't like. He's too fit already." And I'll be like, "Oh, in that case." it's a bit of a comfort level for me because I don't need to be that fit. I don't know, but I personally feel that I didn't want to portray Jesus in a way that that is fat and is or too strong, not to say too strong, but I didn't really want to distract people from the character, from the story, because we are here in that entire scene, that scene particular, especially the crucifixion scene. I feel it is a scene where it portrays his suffering, it portrays what he had to do in a very, very vivid way. So that's the reason why I wanted to lose as much weight as possible. And even during the show, I don't know whether you've seen all three shows, but basically every show there's a little bit of difference, because every time when I do the character, I make sure I try to improve upon it based on what I actually see, what I don't see, or different feedback. One of the changes I did, okay, was that before even this, I know because of my character, or rather my body, my stomach was protruding. I know that. Okay, even though when I stand up straight, it looks okay, but when I bend over, it will naturally have a lump there. So I know that will be a little bit distracting for some people. So what I did was, as much as I could during the crucifixion walk, I actually breathed in. So I had my stomach, instead of like this, I actually breathed it in. I held it in. Okay, so it caused my stomach to go in a little bit. It wasn't. It was a little bit challenging because I had to suffer and hold my breath and holding it back. So when I was on that cross, breathing hard, it was real because I was catching my breath back from having to hold the stomach in that position for that during the entire walk. The other thing is that for my leg position now, from the earlier shot, some of the photographers friends that we have would send some pictures, and I will notice that my leg I would try, because I'm walking with it, so it's very laborious to hold across. As I walk with it, my legs would be very strong. So when we want to get a strong footing, our legs will be like bent this way. So when our legs are bent this way, as I was walking, okay, like this, I stumble like this, step by step. I realized in the photographs, it didn't make me feel, it didn't look that I was suffering. Okay, it kind of looked awkward. So what I did was, in the second and third show, I, instead of walking this way, okay, I actually bent my legs to walk a little bit this way. My knees were pointing inward, and because of that, when visually it looks as if I'm stumbling and suffering across each every step that I took, they created another visual approach to the character. So instead of just me really suffering through it as I go through the walk, I wanted to take every opportunity that I could to portray his suffering. Of course, when the whip did hit, okay, I of course react naturally according to that. The whip doesn't. For those of you who are there and who watch it on video, yes, the whip does not hit me, but I had to act it that I was being hit. So I had to intentionally had a very big reaction to the whip. So everybody's like, oh, that kind of thing. So it's a very big reaction. And there are times when it actually did hit, but that's fine because I told them, if you have to hit, just go for it. In the previous productions that I've done before, if you're gonna hit, just go for it, because I don't want people to feel that he's intentionally missing him or is very soft. So if he hits, go ahead, just I'm okay. It's part of the character, just go for it. There were times where the whip actually hit my face even, so it's just like the face, the body, it's fine. Just gotta keep on doing what we do. Then of course, once we finish that part, during the music cue, when I have to fall down, I drop the cross. I bend my body back to simulate the feel of, if you have a scar, if you have an injury, you just had a sudden impact on ground, on gravel, you would hurt. So I had to show that pain. And then back at that point in time, one of the disciples, Rainer in this case, his real name is Rainer, okay, he would actually come over and cover me, and afterwards the soldiers would drag him away. At that point in time is that, in a sense, a last moment where, for me as a character, I would look into and I'll connect with him, okay, eye to eye, and reach out to him. And I'll reach out to him and try to grab his hand. Of course, I will just only have a short grip before he gets pulled away. And afterwards, I need to get back into character, get back into the role, and go back up onto the cross to prepare for the nailing. One of the very interesting things happened was that during the third day, okay, when I was preparing for the crucifixion walk, a couple of things happened. One, when I was out there, maybe it's something spiritual that's happening. I really do not know. But what happened was that just as I was preparing to go out there, there was this lady. Okay, she was coming in to where we were like exiting from. She was trying to get out of the hall. Okay, then of course the security guard being doing what he had to do, very professionally told her, please use the other exit because we need to use this exit. And she was adamant. She just kept walking, and the guy very nicely went to block her and said, please use the other exit. And I think that it just irritated this lady. Maybe the lady is a little bit disturbed, but she just gave him one tight slap across the face. And after, she started to shout at him. uh, this has not happened before, in at least in front of me. And I think the kudos to the security guard for taking on that and then not responding in kind. um, then afterwards, when that was happening, okay, that was one of the things that happened, that during just before I came out for that. And also just before that moment when I take up the cross, I would always be holding on to that cross and praying on it or with it. Okay, praying with the cross, holding on to the cross and praying with it. For some reason, I don't know why, that day itself, I was thinking of Wiki. Now, for some of you who don't know him, Wiki is a brother with special needs, and what happens is that in usually for every Christmas and even for Easter, we can, some of us endearingly call him Superman because he's kind of everywhere. He cannot be in the hall, but for some reason he's there. He cannot be there, but for some reason he's with the musicians practice, whatever. So he's kind of everywhere. He's harmless, but he's kind of everywhere. So what happens is that usually for the crucifixion scene, um, he's a very, very huge, very, very big guy. And what happens is that he will actually run towards the soldiers, run towards Jesus during the crucifixion scene and try to protect him. He'll shout stuff like, y'all cannot protect Jesus, I will protect him, I'll protect him. And that is what he'll do. And it's quite interesting because when that did happen, he will actually kind of push away the soldiers, and none of the soldiers are as big as him. So he always needs to be calmed down before the show because he did go up and kind of disturb the service before. Then I also saw a video after, I think it was after the entire production. I saw a video where there was a guy, it's a different production altogether. There was a guy who, during one of the Christmas shows, okay, not Christmas shows, Easter shows, one of the soldiers had to pierce the sides of Jesus, and all part of the audience went up and just assaulted the guy. I think with a helmet on, just one heavy whack on him. And why I mentioned this was because I don't know, I cannot verify this, but I heard that when I was going out for the walk itself, there were people that were coming to attack me as when I was doing the role, and they were stopped by some of the soldiers. I don't know who, I really don't know, but when I heard that, for some reason, when I was praying and holding the cross, I was thinking of Wiki, and I said, Lord, I know that He's with you now, and He's in a better place, and I thank you for Him. But for some reason, I just thought about him. And it's kind of interesting that when this happened, God protected me, God protected the actors, protected all of us from any such things that do happen, because it did happen to other productions. So all of us must remain alert, and I think we really do have God's protection, that in this case nothing did go wrong. And it's an interesting experience. It'd be pretty scary, if to really have somebody come upon you, try to attack you physically, and while you are in character. So that would be an interesting moment. But even if it does happen, the show, I will make it carry on, okay? Because the show must go on. Now the nailing is quite fun because I think out of the 3 shows that we did, the second show was the most, I think for the photographers had the best effect because the blood was everywhere, okay? Props to the props team, okay? They did a great job. So when the nail was being struck, palm, what happened was that we had some blood packs. It actually burst out. And what happens was that this time around they had a lot of blood for some reason, and it went all over the place. It went all into the air, hit into my face. It was very, very graphic in a sense, but the photographers loved it. We couldn't do it on the 3rd day, so I believe the 3rd day is the recording that we actually used, and I think it's also good. Now, why was it that the 3rd day was used? Frankly, I feel out of the 3 days, the 3rd day was the best recording because The first day was good, it was okay, but because there were some technical problems. Now, what kind of technical problems we had, just to share with you, was that one of the things we didn't foresee was that for some reason the security at the back did not let our actors go through the back for the stage. Okay, we don't know why. All the previous years we had no problems having that happen, but I guess it's because of security reasons. There's a lot of people coming, so they up their game. So I guess instructions were not passed down from the security side. I don't know. I really don't know. And because of that, some of the actors couldn't come on stage. It was a pity because our actor, one of the disciples, Arnold rather, it was his scene. He was supposed to come out on stage, but he only had one line in the entire show. His line was 夫子，午餐已经准备好了. That's all he had to say. But he couldn't come out for that line. So we were wondering what happened. So when he couldn't come out for that line, I quickly thought of it and I quickly added a line so that the disciples can move on off the stage and can proceed. So all I said was, 你们先去吃午餐吧，我稍后过去. Then after the disciples could go down. So I think one of the very important things for a stage characterization is, for me, I'm not very good at improv. I really am not very good at improv. What I do is that I always imagine what can go wrong. And if it does go wrong, what can I say in that particular situation? So in that situation, something did go wrong. Okay, and mentally I had the preparation that something has gone wrong and what can I do to try to salvage the situation while keeping in touch with what's going to happen next. So that's a tricky part. It's not just improv that doesn't connect. It must improv that connects to the next part of the story. So I'm thankful for that because it has happened before. Accidents do happen. On a real life show, things do go wrong. And when that did happen, which it did, I was in a sense able to salvage the situation and we were able to proceed. So I'm thankful for that. And of course, one of the other challenges that we had was, of course, the different characters, because sometimes when we're on stage, when we are becoming the character, we become very embroiled, okay, in the emotion. We become very close into the emotion, and that emotion overtakes us. And what happens is sometimes because of that, we forget to hear certain cues. We forget to hear certain musical cues, and that can cause a delay. And when that does happen, I too also need to use, based on when he or she finishes his or her line, to be able to modify the lines, to be able to modify the scene in a sense, or hasten it or to shorten it, depending, okay, to bring the story back into position. So that's something that I had to learn to do, also because of experiences where something did go wrong and I had to change. And of what I mean by that was that, for example, when our lead character Jace, he did a fantastic job, by the way. When he was being in the character, he was very disturbed at the ending scene. When he had bread in his mouth just to portray that disturbed mind, he just eat anything there. When that happened, okay, he was very embroiled into the emotion, and because of that, he missed his cue a little bit. So I had to hasten my role, hasten my lines at the end to be able to match the end of the music, because when the cue comes, there is no waiting. It's all one track. It's not like part by part. So a lot of musical cues you watch in the show, actually, it's all one track. It is not like on cue this person says this, on cue this person, then the music plays. It is one singular track. So we need to make sure that our timing is impeccable. The makeup, okay, because every time before I go to the final scene, after the crucifixion scene, right, after that scene where I have to go up there and be crucified, when I'm done with that, when I come down, the makeup ministry, the costume ministry, what we'll do is that we'll get off the stage and we quickly clean me up, remove the makeup on my face, remove the blood, touch up my face, clean my body, clean my hands, my feet from the blood, okay, dry my body so that I can quickly get back into costume for the very next scene. Because so for this particular scene, I only have about half a scene. Actually, not just it's only a very short moment for me to get into position. So they need to very quickly remove all the makeup and everything. This is for the first show, the very first day. What happened was that when we removed the makeup, we timed it for about a minute, and about in a minute, but into the cleaning, I need to get on stage already. We weren't able to clean on time because we were still trying. It was, frankly, we were trying to clean so many things. After they were trying to draw the hole where Jesus was nailed into. So previous years, what happened was we actually put some it's a makeup prosthetic in a sense where it protrudes out. But for this year, because of time, we had no time at all, so we had to draw a black dot instead, and we had to go up. And then after, so when they drew that, as I was to go up, they put on the cloak. What happened was that the gold cloak that you saw was actually caught in the light on my right side. So I went up, it was caught. So I was okay. In that case, when I got it unhooked, once I got it unhooked, I didn't feel that it was right for me to put it back on. They had no time, so I just put it on my arm instead, and I walked out. So that was one of the technical problems that happened on the first day, on the actual show. Then of course I just proceeded and we just carried on. There was a bit of delay there. I couldn't save that, unfortunately, but there was one of the things that did happen. And then so these are the things that we always have as characters. We always prepare. We, as much as we prepare for during our rehearsals or preparations, our runs during the actual tech runs and everything, things do happen. So we need to be alert for every situation and just move accordingly. Okay. Now for the 3 days that we did, second day was quite okay, but I felt that in fact the directors also, I believe they do agree, and we all did share this common feel, was that on the third day itself, on the 3 days shows, the third day felt different. Really, it felt different because spiritually speaking, when we are there as we're preparing for the role, it's very important that the first scene does very well. And on the third day itself, the kids who did a fantastic job, by the way, fantastic job. On the third day itself, their portrayal of the characters was very strong. For some, it was very, very well done. And because of that, I think it caused the rest of us to want to up our game. And then, indeed, every single character that came out, all the lines was just on point. It was strong. And I thought, even for myself, spiritually speaking, I was getting there. It was getting stronger. And here's a little bit of information which you do not, well, you wouldn't know unless you've been in it, was that when I was doing this ketogenic diet, the idea was of the ketogenic diet is actually to not eat any carbs at all. So what happened was that the day before, just the day before, I ate a bit of, I kind of broke fast a little bit. Okay, so I had a glazed donut. So I had it. So once that what goes into my body comes and gets out of the ketosis state. Okay, because there is some carbs, some sugar to eat, and then afterwards the body starts seeking or looking for sugar for an energy source. And what happened was on the third day itself, before the service, I was doing makeup, doing all the makeup. Um, I'd be When I'm doing the front part of the makeup, I'll be lying down, and the makeup artist will be doing that. But the back part, I will be standing up. I'll be hunched over, okay, and then while they apply the glue and all the different makeup on my back. And what happened was that because my body had went into not the regular state, not the ketosis state, and my body started to look for sugar, for energy. So there wasn't any, because I've been subsiding on fats and oils for my body energy source. So because of that, I started to feel faint. I started to feel a bit giddy, and I had to sit down. And I had sit down, and they had to try to get me to recover my body back, get my body back, and blood flowing again. So they helped me to get some Milo. I had to eat some different foods to get all the sugar back into the system. And because of that, um, every time while people were preparing for their characters, while they're doing their makeups and everything, I was literally resting because I was so tired and my body was lacking it. So there was a lack of me. So in that case, in that moment, actually, I prayed that God just help me to recover, because this is a very important show. This is the last show, and we got to make this a good one. We have to make this a good one, because why? It's not just make this last show a good one, because every show is important. Every show, people are coming. People are coming to your presence. People are coming to your church. So this is the time where we want people to be saved. We want to make this a mighty harvest, not just in our church, but it is the churches all around the world. So this video or this recording that we do, let nothing happen to me, but let me just go through it. Okay, let me be able to finish it well, finish it strong. Because of that, because of uh, every time, previous times when I've been doing the show, I've been relying on God, but this time I really rested upon Him. I really rested upon His presence and His guidance and His provision. So while physically I started to take a bit more food, spiritually I was relying a lot on Him, because I was like, Lord, I cannot do this by myself. Physically I'm very tired, but mentally, everything, I must stay sharp for you. But Lord, you must do what I cannot do. So that is what happened. And afterwards, when I managed to, or with the help of the makeup artist, some of them helped me to give me a quick massage, and some food came in. I got my energy back and I rested. Then afterwards, we went to the show, and the energy was up. Energy was up. And because of that, the game was good, okay, the show was good, everyone was putting in their best performance, and that created a different atmosphere, I feel, for every single character. Every single character went on, started to put in all their very strong performance, and I think that was a very key difference that we all felt spiritually was different. Okay, so those was some of the ideas, some of the things that we had to go through, some of the changes on the spot, on the stage that we had to change, we had to prepare for. Some of the things, one of the things I wanted to talk a little bit about was on the story and script development. In the very, very early parts of the story, Marion was alive at the end. Marion came back to life. But when afterwards, during the first run that we had, during the first read through and I prepared a feedback that we gave back to the scriptwriter, Lingual, she did a great job, and it was edited by Chin Ling. So they both did a great job for the story. For when Lingual came out of this and then she mentioned about it, I'm like, no, it's not right. I personally feel that Marion should not come back. Why? Because story-wise, it just didn't feel right. It's too airy-fairy. It's too much of like a fairy tale. In real life, things don't always happen that way. Okay. Yes, we do have in the Bible people coming back to life. We do have that, but we also have people die every single day. Okay. When Jesus was alive, people were still dying. People were being coming back. People were being born. People were dying. Not everybody came back to life. It just doesn't happen that way. There are some people who don't. Okay, so even for a character like Zacchaeus, now Zacchaeus, for those of you who don't know, what we do usually during our productions is that we take a bit of a creative approach to the Easter story. We don't, yes, Jesus' story is very strong, but we take a creative approach by telling the story of Jesus in a different angle through another person's eyes that will be able to help us understand him in a different way. And for me, every single year, Easter, there is always some kind of loss involved. Always, always. And because of that, how can we overcome that loss through Easter, through Jesus, okay, through Christ? Because Easter or Good Friday, that period of time, in a sense, God lost his only begotten son. His son had to go down to suffer in hell and afterwards came back to life. So in a sense, God had to deal with that through himself. For us, we need to learn to be able to overcome a particular loss. What be that loss, whether it's a loved one, whether it's something. Job, for example, lost everything, his entire family, all his kids, but God didn't bring him back, but he gave him something new. For Zacchaeus, when he lost Marion, he didn't bring him back. I felt it wasn't right to bring her back. I also felt that this is because God doesn't work that way. He doesn't just raise because just because you want it. God doesn't work according to what we want. So he always does things based on what is in his plan. And because of that, I felt that Jesus should not bring Marion back. Now, I also think because of this, it created a talking point. I feel it's very important because when after the end of the story, we don't want just the entire production to be, oh, so it's a good show and then done by, that's it. We want them people to be able to talk a little bit about it. Why didn't Marion come back? Why did this? Why did that? Certain things. Why is it that this? So this becomes a bit of a talking point for people to discuss, and whether that is something that was very important to you that you had to lose, and then you have to find strength in Christ, or whatever. So these are the different things that we felt that, at least for myself, it was very important for me to when the story was created along that way. Then another thing was interesting was that at the end of the show, if you recall, I was putting on my cloak upon Zacchaeus. In the very beginning of the show, you also see young Jesus, okay, young me, he did a great job by the way, also putting on his clothes upon him. Whether that's be symbolic or not, I leave that up to you. For me, it was rather symbolic. We are still trying to do things according to what we want. We're still trying to do it according to our own way, and when we keep failing and failing and failing, at the end, Jesus comes to him, puts on his cloak, and says, you have to let go of your past mistakes, for I have come to make all things new. So we no longer rely on the old methodologies, our old methods of doing things, and just rely on him, on his guidance to help us through. Because we've been trying so many things based on what we know, what we think best, and eventually, we don't end up the way that we want it to be, or things that don't end up the way that we want them to be. So I feel that it's important for there to be a talking point in every part of the production, and I also feel there's a lot of symbolic moments inside the story. I don't know what would be your symbolic moments. I would love to read your comments if you have any down below in the comment section. I would love to hear it. I would love to read it. But in any case, these are some of the experiences of that I've gone through. Some of the lessons I've learned about preparing for the character. These are the things I do to prepare for the character. And this video is getting very long. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you for watching this video. Whatever we have done in this production, it's all done even for one soul. It's all done even for one soul, because all heaven rejoices over it. And when we are praying, we're preparing for the character, this will be the time when we lift it all into God's hands, because it is not just what we want to do. We're using our gifts to do God's work, but in every single one of us that we do this production for, all of us come together to do this production. We are all doing it to serve God. So I hope, and I really hope you've enjoyed the production. But if you have not, I don't know why you're watching this video, but if you have not, there is a link somewhere, okay, that I think is in the description, or if it's on my blog, there will definitely be a link to the actual video where you can watch it for yourself. I myself, I'm going to rewatch it again, because when I am preparing for the character, I do not watch the screen. I do not watch it, so that I just stay in character. Okay, so once again, thank you very much, and maybe I'll do another vlog if when it comes to it, okay, when it comes to the next character that I have to do. Thank you very much, and God bless you.